obscure world of parking. We use it every day, but have we really capitalized on the intricacies of our industry? In this podcast, the Parking Network will go behind the scenes and talk to industry professionals about all things parking, from the horizon of evolving technology and even stories of the old days. We hope to encourage and inspire operators and property managers alike to look at parking through a new lens. Hello and welcome to the Our Parking Industry Podcast. I'm Krista O'Lean and I'm here with Lee Thomas and Clyde Wilson. We are going to do a recap of our episode with Amanda Duffy from Tagmaster, and we are going to take that information that she provided and tie it into all things that TPN loves to discuss, such as accountability, access control systems, customer service, just why this type of technology matters in our industry and what it does for us. So, Lee, I'll let you start out with our first question if you want to start there.
Recording this podcast with Amanda was a lot of fun. We laughed a lot off recording, talked a lot about yachting, and I enjoyed it very much. But the whole time I was wondering, and so Clyde, I'd really like to ask you, what does this technology mean to our industry? Why does specifically LPR, why does it matter?
Well, I'm going to start with another statement that's kind of unrelated to what you're saying, but this technology has really changed our industry and how we're able to manage it. So it really puts a lot of pressure back on the people on the streets on the front end of parking, because you're all of a sudden given a lot of tools you didn't used to have. So your excuses go away now. But I'm going to answer, first of all, I want to make a statement, because I was dealing with this in just the last 24 hours. Tagmaster, I understand them very well, and I was actually in the development of the Parking Network's early products. We were a customer of theirs in their early days of development, so we got to really see them in early stages of development and worked with them. Went through some challenges, and they were on it every day. I've been working with a national manufacturer of a parking control product, and I all of a sudden noticed the difference. In Amanda's discussion, she talked about they build it, they create it, they do the software, they do the hardware, they market it. It comes from them, right? So the super, super big company that I was talking to in the last couple of days, I realized they just make it. They don't distribute it. They don't know the customer. Talking to me, because I had to get to somebody that could give me an answer, was unusual for them, because they don't generally talk to the people in the field. And for those of us who deal with the field, boy, that's a concept we just don't understand, because if you don't deal with the field, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you can't really service our business. Mm-hmm. So now I'll get on to I had to make that statement. So now I'll get on to the question that you asked. And again, Lee, it goes to a conversation that we were involved in, where we asked a question to some parking operators that we thought they should know the answer to, and they hadn't even thought about it. But Tagmaster, license plate recognition, toll tag identifies a customer, a car, a customer. It identifies them. We now know who they are. We can look in our garage and know, where before I only knew monthlies because of their tag, their card. I knew when the monthlies were coming and going, and I could go to an individual monthly parker and know how they were using my facility. But visitors we didn't know who they were. They just showed up every day, and we were really happy. And we really tried to make them pay. That sometimes was more difficult than it had to be. And the same goes to on-street parking, where they're just sticking quarters in a parking meter, and so they don't know who our customers are. So I can't look at a customer and know, well, this person comes in our garage 2 or 3 times every month, and they always come in at 11 o'clock, and they always stay 2.5 hours. They're meeting somebody for lunch. I know what they're doing, and I know who they are now. So those types of technologies, this vehicle identification technology, which is really a customer identification technology really, really, really helps us better understand our business. We can understand parking today better than we ever could before. I was telling you guys this morning about my early days in the parking business. And if I had customers and I wanted to know who they were, the only way I could do it was go to the elevator and watch them come down and see which direction they walked and follow some of them to see, did they go in that office building or that office building? And at 11:30, I'd follow them to see, are they going down here for lunch or are they going over there for lunch? That was all we had. So now we're starting to get to where we're upping that level quite a bit of where they are and who they are, where they are, and what they need. Do we need to prepare for people coming to lunch? Is there something we can do to make it easier for them? Do we need to prepare for people going to the theater at night or going to dinner at night? Do we maybe need to add security at 6:30 at night for all those people that are going over to the theater or going to the restaurant? So we now know you do license plate technology, transponder technology, anything that tells you this customer has been in my garage before changes how you manage the garage.
It's just a great reminder that, like your initial comment, we have to stay really close to our customers. We need to walk our garages, know our numbers, but also know our customers, because it helps us be better managers and helps us make the decisions that make a successful operation.
Right. The only reason we're here is them. So it really helps to know who they are. Funny how that happens. And if you know who they are, you have a better chance of knowing what their needs are. And is there something we can do to better provide that? So what Tagmaster is doing is they're a part of that system of identifying traffic patterns and identifying our customers. One of the, I guess it's because it was really almost impossible to do that through most of the parking industry. So the people who are in it today still fall into two categories. The ones that were still here, that were here during the time when we couldn't do that, and the ones that are coming in being trained by those people. And so we experienced that yesterday with the guys that we were talking to on the phone. They were ones that had been here before, the ability to do all those things. And we're seeing it in other projects that we're working on from the guys that are now being trained by the guys who never knew they could do that. So they don't train the new people to do that. And so this is all just a very changing industry right now. Something that we didn't have to deal with, that we didn't deal with before, we are today. So we have to learn to manage our customers. We also have to learn to manage ourselves.
Something that Amanda said that I thought was really catchy was, she said, have the right equipment so that humans can do what humans can do well. And we need to know who is parking. We need to know why they're there and if they paid their bill. And pick a tool, pick whatever you like. And LPR is just one of those tools you can pick.
LPR is one of those tools you can pick. And you know what? It's great because the customer doesn't even have to understand it. They just know it's reading my license plate. And I when I first put in some flow through technology of those groups, that product, I had people drive up to, and I think I still have videos. If I could ever find them, I'd show you. This was early days, so this was 2016. I had a high tourist location, and people would drive up, and this is why we put voice in to tell people what to do. They would drive up, and they would look at this thing, and it didn't spit a ticket to them. So the license plate stuff was just starting to people recognize, and it seemed to be especially the females would do this, and they were really good at it because they were all, oh, I know what to do, and the passenger jumps out and runs back and remembers the license plate number and runs up, and they start trying to figure out how to punch the license plate number. The guys would just sit there and go, "What the heck am I supposed to do?" And so it was funny to watch the different groups of people and how they tried to solve this new thing. And I didn't realize I had made it hard for them. So we put in the voice stuff where we had as soon as that car touched the loop, you could time it of them from the time the front of the car touched the loop. There was a 0.7 of a second before the window got to where they could hear. So we delayed the sound 0.7 of a second, and then it started to tell them what to do. And they would listen. And so it's just about accountability and solving problems. And you're right. It was a great statement that she made. We're trying to do things that the customers can do. And it's easy for us creating stuff to accidentally put something in there that the average customer just doesn't understand. We think they should because we've been sitting around thinking about it till 4 o'clock in the morning every night for a year. So we think they ought to be able to do this. But the reality is they're customers and they don't sit around thinking about how to do this.
I think that's probably one of the biggest things that we see with new technologies coming in is that they overestimate what a customer is capable of doing. And that is one of the biggest flaws that we've seen in new technologies that come in is they
Right.
have this expectation that they'll just know. They'll just know what to do. But we have to understand that our customers in parking can be 16, just barely new drivers, or they could be 85. Who knows? The range is
I
wide.
thought you
And
were going to say 75.
no, no, a little higher. So the range in our customers and what they're comfortable with on a technological level is really wide. And so we have to be able to provide something that they can do easily or not do anything and it just works, similar to LPR.
Yeah, it's such an interesting time to be in this customer interaction business and accountability business because the technology's changed so much. So it's just, you guys made me think about this morning standing in front of the elevator looking to see where customers went. I hadn't thought about that in forever, but it was all we had. And it was all we had. And we talked to some people on the phone yesterday who were still doing that. Or not. Well, yeah, or not.
So give me some examples. If I know my customers, what decisions can I make because I'm an informed manager?
Well, if you're an informed manager and you know who your customers are, you know a couple things. You know what time they come in, and most garages have several different groups of customers. If we had a moment here, and I'm not going to do it because I can't bring it up on my screen, but I go through when we do the transaction records, and I do the who parked on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday throughout the week, and by time of day, then I have little boxes drawn around the different groups of people who come in at 7 to 9 in the morning or 7 to 10. And then over here on this code, I see that they also stayed 8 to 10 hours. I know who they are. We know exactly who they are. They're monthly parkers. And so then we've just got to figure out which building they're going to. Are they going to ours or the one across the street? Or are they coming in at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock and then it's how long do they stay? If they come in at 10 o'clock and stay for an hour, they just hour and a half, they went to a meeting. They came in at 10 o'clock and stay for 2.5 hours. They came in for a meeting and went to lunch. Um, so you really can start identifying your customers. Well, once you've identified them, if you think through it and you're a good manager, you start thinking, what can I do to make this better for them? And it's like for the theater stuff at night, do they need security? Or just like we were just talking to one of those facilities a couple of weeks ago, do you need lighting around the elevator plaza better because you've got people now all dressed up coming down the elevator and standing in the elevator lobby in downtown USA at 8 o'clock at night? Probably ought to brighten that up a little bit, and clean it every day because they're more sensitive than the regular workers are. So you start learning who your customers are. Once you learn who your customers are, if you think through it a little bit, I mean, I believe I'm right on this. If I know who my customers are, I can think through ways to better serve them. And what happens when you do that? You get more, instead of competing on price all the time. And I'm sick of these discussions of competing on price. Yeah, you do have to compete on price. You can't be, you know, $10 versus $25. You do have to be close, but you shouldn't be competing on $15 versus 18. If you want to charge $18, you better have better directions for getting in the garage, better directions for getting to my parking space, better lighting at the elevator plaza lobbies, better lighting down below. You do those things, well, you get more, you know, and they're pretty low cost things to be able to do to improve the service to our customers. So I don't know if I answered your question, Lee.
Yes. Yes. So I have another question for you.
Good.
In all of these conversations over the last couple of weeks about new technology in garages, we've also talked about how it helps with traffic control. Talk to me about that. I don't even know what that means.
I think it's one of those things that in parking we didn't do a good job of that because we didn't have the ability to do it. I mean, once we were lucky to get you through the entry. So once we got you through the entry, we were pretty happy, right?
Okay, I understand that. As a parker, when I get through the entry and get in a spot, I'm like, yes,
Yes.
the day is successful.
Right. So today we have so much more ability with that. And one of the projects we're about to go see is a really complicated project with a really demanding tenant, and they want to know how many spaces are in my garage because this particular tenant has the ability to park in any one of 5 garages, right? They just need to know which one I can park in, and they don't want to have to drive to each one of them in order of their priority to see which one has the full sign on. They want to know before they get there. Well, today we have the ability to tell them. We have the ability to tell you, yeah, your primary garage is full today. So you might want to, there's spaces down here. Or we have the ability today, and there's a lot of work still going on this. It's not out in great use yet, but it's going to come really fast. And that is the ability to predict, well, if you're going to get there at 1 o'clock, there's not going to be any spaces left. Because traditionally that garage fills at 1 o'clock. So not only are you going to be able to see how many spaces are available in my garage that I'm headed to, you're going to know if you don't get there before a certain time, there may not be space. So it's that dangerous thing I've talked about, even written an article about this, that darn informed customer. We're now making customers informed, and I think the more informed they get, the more dangerous they become. But no, that's our job. Our job is to inform them. We have the ability to do it today. So that's what Tag Master and the products that they have, and all of these other companies, Survision that we've had on this podcast, all of those are gathering information that if we then use it, you can solve all kinds of problems. So almost everything we're talking about right here, this group right here of us have been dealing with in the last month.
Well, I think one of the pieces to that is that we not only have more informed customers, we also have more informed parking managers. And so the flip side of that coin is that our more informed parking managers can make informed decisions to better support the informed customers. So all this information is out there, and all of these technologies are assisting in gathering that information, producing the information, and making it tangible to the operators, and now also in some circumstances customer facing. So with all of that information, how does the industry move forward so that both informed parties, well informed parties, can provide the best service and meet the needs of customers that have almost as much information as the parking manager sometimes?
Great question, because it's one of those questions that you go from here, I've not answered here to back to where you began, because you have to go, it's just like in sports, and especially if you play football, you always heard your coaches say, it's just blocking and tackling. All this other stuff, the base, if you can't block and you can't tackle, then you might want to go sit in the stands, right? So all of these things we're doing are really just trying to get the customer off the street and in the garage, get them to pay, collect the money from them, and be sure that they're parking in a place that serves their needs. We can tell them how many spaces there are. We can tell them where the spaces are. We can make sure that at that time of day, we have customers that maybe need additional security, or that we just need to watch over a little better. So we learn all of these things about the customers, but the reality is I need to get them off the street and charge them. We provide a parking space for time.
So all of the information hasn't changed the basics. It's changed how we accomplish the basics and
Right.
meet the basic needs, but it hasn't changed the basic role of our job.
Right. That's exactly right. And the Super Bowl 2 weeks ago, it was all about blocking and tackling. And the winner and loser was the one that did those two the best. So it's still about blocking and tackling, but there's all these other things that we can do to give the customer a better experience. Not make it hard for them to pay, make it easy for them to pay. Know they're coming because we've learned they generally show up at this time. Know they're coming, know what their needs are, try to get them closer to a space. There are, there's this is happening a lot. And I was talking to Rick West, and he mentioned it, and I hadn't thought about it in probably 6 or 8 months. But the engineering companies today in some commercial office buildings are starting to identify the exact parking space so that cars that have, it's called navigation. And I just heard this about 6 months ago, and I thought, I can't believe they're doing this now. I know driverless cars are nowhere close to being ready, but that shorter version of parking themselves is kind of around. And they're starting to identify every parking stall in the garage so that a car can just go park itself. So that's changing. That'll become a customer service. Today, maybe for handicap, that would want it, need it more and than everybody else. But that's just going to come down in 10 years from now. The car will know where to go. Whether you're still sitting in the car or whether it's driving itself, the car will know where to go. And so that's just another one of those more things that we can do to help our customers. I mean, again, in years past and up until about 10 years ago, the most we wanted out of our customers was just to try to make them pay. And we weren't really into giving them anything other than a parking space. So we gave them a parking space for time. We didn't really tell them where it was, and didn't put a lot of lights on it to do a lot of things. But today we're having this information. So guess what? The customer expects it. I'm a customer now that knows what your job is. I know what you're supposed to do for me, right? So I'm expecting you to do it.
In your operating days, Clyde, did you ever have a customer who couldn't find her car? Is that because even if the car can park itself, like I'm the customer, I still have to be able to find my car. Do you have a story about that?
I had a lot of those. At airports, that's kind of a common thing. They deal with that almost every day. But yes, I don't have any funny stories about it, but I ran into it a lot. And we had a new garage that was built. There's a reason for the story, and you'll pick up on it as soon as I say it. This was in the medical center. It was a medical office building garage. And I can't think of the name of the design now. It was an interwoven double helix. So when you get out of an elevator or go to an elevator, you might have come from this floor up to the elevator. Or you might have walked from this floor down to the elevator. And at a medical office building, the customers that are traditionally there are not teenagers. And you've just made it really hard because they've traditionally gotten out of a floor and the elevator was over there. I'm on the 4th floor, and so I go there. Well, now I'm getting on an elevator that says I'm on the 4th floor, but I'm really parked halfway up to the 5th floor, right? Or halfway down to the 3rd floor because I could do this. And so, yeah, those people, you'd see them, and you could see them. They're wandering around, they're lost. So you go up and you can tell, I mean, these people are at the hospital, right? So they're barely able to get from the elevator to their car if it was parked right there. So you walk up to them and ask them, and then you start trying. I've had to put people in a car and drive them around
To find their car?
to find their car because they were not even close, and they couldn't walk with me to find their car. So yeah, we were a little slow in the parking business learning that lesson.
Well, now that's customer service right there.
It was. So you had to pay attention to them. At airports, you can still see them today wandering around looking for the car. And then you have the older crowd that are still out walking around. And that was probably the main reason that we decided we have no choice but to put my mom in assisted living, because she would walk out of she had learned, she would walk out of the grocery store with us and say, well, now son, where did we park that car? Trying to make fun of it. She didn't have a clue where the car was.
Yeah.
So I knew none of us lived close to home. And so she was going to walk out one day, not be able to find her car, and run into the wrong person who realized she was lost. But yeah, no, it happens all the time. And so we have technologies today that are going to be better able to do it. And you can already today, now we're not doing a good job at this. You have technologies today on your phone where you can tap your phone and say, okay, now I know the geographic coordinates of where my car is,
Mm-hmm.
but not in a parking garage because you don't have access to the internet. So we have not done a good job of this. I think we're doing better. It came up in the conversation on the location we were talking about that we're going to see. They mentioned that on the first floor, even on the first floor, once you pull in the garage, your cell phone doesn't work. Well, so we're going to have to put transponders or repeaters in there to get boosters to get cell phone signal outside of the garage.
To
And I
support the
think
parking equipment.
the reality is we're going to have to do that. That's another step that we're going to have to do to provide that higher level of customer service.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to end up having to put those in all garages because we're expecting people to use their phone for everything now. So you can't put them in caves and expect them to get the service they need. And that's what we're doing. So we're going to end up having to put the boosters, cell signal boosters, in the garages, and they're not expensive. They're just another thing you've got to put in. And but we probably need to do a better job of us and the parking operators of walking around your garage and testing if you have dark spots or the whole garage is dark, and whether we're going to have to put that in because it's coming. I mean, it's already here, really. It's already here that people need to use their phone while they're in the garage.
Yeah. I have one final question about just license plate recognition in general. How does thinking about technology in the future, how does AI play a role in LPR and license plate recognition?
That's really a very big question, and I hope I'm qualified to at least give a tiny answer for it. AI is really a part of that. We talked about it the other day, LiDAR, and what that does. Well, what that does is it starts taking a whole bunch of pictures of a car and recognizes the car. If it doesn't get the plate, it recognizes the car. Um, so AI starts coordinating that this is what the car looks like to the license plate. Um, and so AI is going to start putting all these pieces together to be able to give us more and more information about our customers and what their needs are. Um, AI, you know, I I have tried to read everything I can about AI and what's coming with it, so I kind of know it how it's going to impact us and our customers. But I was absolutely floored yesterday when we were on the phone and talking about the name of the product that we were looking at. And Shiloh comes up with, while we're on the phone, comes up with this list of 10 absolutely amazing names. So all of a sudden it hits you. The ability to do all this stuff. Look at all the things we might be able to do for our customers we're not even thinking about now. But this is all coming. And I was just talking about it a little earlier, the ability to track counts throughout the course of a day and know that every Tuesday in November, every Tuesday, first Tuesday in November, this garage tends to kind of fill up. So AI puts all that together. So now when we want to give it to a customer, we're using AI to take numbers that we have to project into the future the needs of his parking space. So AI is going to play a bigger and bigger and bigger role for us.
I think going back to the Shiloh story, it was to me the impressive part. To me, the impressive part was that she took a very good description. And so to generate those titles and to generate that information, it needed really good input to be able to do that. And so using good information and inputting really good information to get a good output is also important. So the just the idea of how that affects the identification of the license plate and the car, it has to have good input to be able to create good output.
That's a great statement because what we learned from Shiloh was she could have used 4 or 5 different phrases to ask that question and would have probably gotten a different answer on every one of those. But because she asked the question exactly, precisely what she was looking for, she got what she was looking for. So a skill that we're going to have moving forward is the ability to ask the question, to make the statement.
And let humans do what humans do well. And that is ask the questions and give the right information so the AI can do the task that makes our job easier.
Right, exactly. So, we just solved all the problems in parking for now and the next 20 years. I think it's great. I think it's fun. I love these conversations because it makes us all think about what our customers need, what the operators need, what the clients expect us to do, and then what our capabilities are in solving those problems. The most fun for me, I mean, there are several things about this 45 years that have been fun. And I certainly enjoy people like you guys coming in that are excited about what we do and the challenges that we do. But, the exciting part has been the solving the customer problems. It is so much fun instead of just letting the customers drive in and park every day. It is so much fun to try to make it better. And 40 years ago, I could try to make it better if the odds were against me. Today, you can try to make it better and the odds are overwhelming. So it's an exciting time to be able to do. So you don't want to miss the fun of the time that we live in.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us on today's episode of Our Parking Industry. We've had a great discussion with Lee and Clyde talking about all things technology and Tagmaster recap with Amanda Duffy. And we hope we will talk to you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye. To quote one of the greatest business minds of our time, Charles Munger, he said, "The best thing a human can do is help another human being know more." Here on Our Parking Industry podcast, we want to provide knowledge and resources. If you heard something that sparked your curiosity in today's episode, please reach out on our socials at TPN Consulting. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. See you next time on Our Parking Industry.